Far Cry 3. We have to start with the game that redefined the open-world shooter. Before Far Cry 3, the series was struggling to find its identity. The first game was a linear mutant shooter, and the second was a gritty, hardcore survival experiment in Africa. But then came the Rook Islands. This game perfected the outpost formula that we still see in almost every Ubisoft game today. It gave us a sense of character progression that felt visceral. Watching Jason Brody go from a terrified, pampered tourist to a cold-blooded jungle warrior was a journey we felt in our own hands. But the real reason this game went to the next level, Vas Montenegro. He wasn't just a villain, he was a cultural reset. His definition of insanity monologue is still one of the most iconic moments in gaming history. It introduced a level of psychological storytelling and cinematic flair that the series desperately needed. The game balanced exploration, hunting for gear upgrades, and base clearing so perfectly that every Far Cry since has been trying to recapture this exact lightning in a bottle. It took a standard FPS and turned it into a survival horror action masterpiece. It proved that a shooter could have a deep, disturbing soul while still letting you blow up everything in sight. Assassin's Creed 2. If the first Assassin's Creed was a proof of concept, then Assassin's Creed 2 was the finished masterpiece. The leap here was astronomical. We moved from the dusty, repetitive streets of the Crusades to the vibrant, breathtaking architecture of Renaissance Italy. But the biggest upgrade wasn't the map, it was the man, Ezio Auditore de Firenze. By starting the game at his birth and watching him grow from a cocky, vengeful teenager to a wise master assassin, players felt a personal connection to the creed that Altair just couldn't provide. The gameplay improvements were massive. They added the hidden blade upgrades from Leonardo da Vinci, a full economy system to rebuild your villa in Monteriggioni, and the ability to finally swim. Remember how the original assassins died if they touched a puddle? AC2 felt like a living, breathing world. You weren't just checking boxes on a map, you were unraveling a centuries-old conspiracy. It refined the parkour to feel fluid, expanded the combat with disarms and hidden pistols, and gave us a soundtrack that still defines the franchise today. This isn't just a sequel, this is the game that made Assassin's Creed a global phenomenon and set the gold standard for historical fiction in gaming. Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. Before Uncharted 2, Naughty Dog was known for making good platformers. After Uncharted 2, they were the undisputed kings of cinematic storytelling. The jump from Drake's Fortune to Among Thieves is one of the most significant quality leaps in PlayStation history. The game didn't just start with a cutscene, it started with Nathan Drake waking up inside a train car dangling off a snowy Himalayan cliff. It was a statement. This wasn't just a game anymore, it was a playable summer blockbuster. The set pieces in this game are legendary for a reason. Whether you were fighting through a collapsing building in Nepal or hopping between trucks in a high-speed mountain convoy, the transition between gameplay and cinematics was seamless. The chemistry between Drake, Elena, and the newcomer Chloe Fraser was written with so much wit and heart that it set a new bar for voice acting and motion capture. It moved away from the clunky shooting mechanics of the first game and introduced a verticality to the combat that felt revolutionary. It took a decent treasure hunting adventure and turned it into the gold standard for the entire action-adventure genre, proving that games could be just as thrilling as any Hollywood movie. Borderlands 2. The first Borderlands gave us the looter-shooter concept, but Borderlands 2 gave that world a pulse and a personality. Gearbox took everything fans loved about the first game and multiplied it by 10. We got more guns, literally millions of them, diverse biomes ranging from icy tundras to high-tech cities, and actual variety in class skills that allowed for wild build experimentation. But the biggest next-level jump was the writing.
Pandora went from being a lonely desert wasteland to a world filled with hilarious, dark, and unforgettable characters. We have to talk about Handsome Jack. Most sequels struggle to create a villain as compelling as the hero, but Jack might be the greatest antagonist in gaming history. He's charming, he's funny, he's absolutely psychopathic, and he talks to you through the entire game, making the conflict feel personal. The addition of a proper narrative with high stakes, like the fate of Sanctuary, combined with a refined loot loop, turned Borderlands from a quirky experiment into a titan of the industry. It's the reason why every modern game tries to include loot tiers and color-coded rarity. It perfected the one more quest addiction.
Now we get to the King of Chaos. Just Cause 2 was a great sandbox, but Just Cause 3 turned the entire world into a physics-defying playground. The developers at Avalanche Studios understood exactly why people play these games, to cause absolute mayhem in the most creative ways possible. By adding the wingsuit, they completely changed how we interacted with the environment. You weren't just driving cars or flying planes anymore. You were a human jet weaving through trees and under bridges at 100 miles per hour. Then they gave us the multiple tethers and the power core upgrades. Being able to tether a fighter jet to a windmill or launch a tank into a fuel silo with a rocket-powered booster gave us a level of creative freedom that most games are too scared to allow. The explosions in JC3 are still some of the most beautiful, high-fidelity pyrotechnics in the business. It took the series to the next level by leaning fully into its identity as a Michael Bay simulator. It didn't try to be a serious military drama. It gave us the tools to be a one-man army, and it remains the peak of fun-first game design. It's hard to describe the sheer cultural impact of Modern Warfare 2 to those who weren't there in 2009. COD 4 was a massive hit, but MW2 was a global event that stopped the world. It took the fast-paced multiplayer formula and added the kill streak system that redefined online gaming forever. Maps like Terminal, Rust, and High Rise aren't just levels, they are digital landmarks burned into the brains of an entire generation of gamers. But it wasn't just the multiplayer. The campaign was bigger, louder, and more cinematic than anything we'd seen in a shooter. From the controversial No Russian mission to the heartbreaking betrayal by General Shepard, the story was a non-stop adrenaline rush that felt like a high-stakes political thriller. The addition of Spec Ops mode gave us endless hours of co-op fun, and the refinement of the prestige grind kept the community alive for years. It took Call of Duty from being just another military shooter to being the biggest entertainment launch in history. This was the absolute peak of the golden era, where every match felt like it mattered.
Finally, we have the game that redefined what an open world can be. Red Dead Redemption 1 was a masterpiece of the Western genre, but RDR2 is a technical miracle that feels like it's from the future. Rockstar Games didn't just make a bigger map, they made a more intimate world. Every animal has an ecosystem, every NPC has a schedule, and the weather effects can literally change the way you play. The level of immersion here, having to eat, maintain your camp, and bond with your horse, took the sequel concept to a level of realism that most developers still haven't caught up to. The story of Arthur Morgan is a Shakespearean tragedy told in slow motion. It's a prequel that manages to make the events of the first game feel even more meaningful and heartbreaking. The transition from the lawless Wild West to the cold industrial dawn of modern civilization is captured perfectly through Arthur's eyes. It's a game where you can spend 5 hours just fishing or watching the sunset and feel completely satisfied. It is the ultimate example of what happens when a developer is given the budget and the time to push the absolute limits of hardware. It's not just a sequel, it's a living, breathing world that every gamer needs to experience at least once.